What if time paused for just one more chance? In a small, quiet town, nestled among rolling hills and old oak trees, there was a train station that seemed to have been forgotten by the modern world. It was a place of stone walls, worn wooden benches, and a single grand clock that hung high above the platform. This station was famous for one thing: its punctuality. The evening train, the last one of the day, was known as Old Reliable. It was said that you could set your watch by its departure down to the very second. The townspeople had a saying: "This train never waits for anyone. If you're late, it's gone, and so is your opportunity." It wasn't just a train. It was a symbol of life's unforgiving pace, a reminder that time marches on with or without you. Many a tale was told of those who had missed it by a hair's breadth, their hopes and plans left standing on the empty platform as the red taillights faded into the distance. The train represented certainty in a world full of variables. It was a constant, a fixed point around which the lives of many revolved. To catch it meant you were organized, prepared, and on top of your life. To miss it was to admit defeat, at least for that day. One cool evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the conductor, a man named Arthur, went through his familiar routine. Arthur had been working this line for over 30 years. His face was a roadmap of wrinkles, each one telling a story of countless departures and arrivals. He was as much a part of the station as the clock itself. He checked his pocket watch, its tick-tock a steady heartbeat against the quiet hum of the evening. The time was 6:29 p.m., 1 minute to departure. He glanced down the platform, seeing the last of the passengers settle into their seats, their faces illuminated by the warm glow from the carriage windows. Everything was as it should be. With a practiced motion, he raised the silver whistle to his lips and blew a sharp, clear note that echoed through the station. It was the final call. The sound was a signal for the doors to begin their slow, mechanical slide. But just as they started to move, a faint sound broke the evening stillness. It was a frantic, rhythmic tapping, growing louder and more urgent with each passing second. It was the sound of footsteps, fast and desperate, echoing from the old stone stairs that led down to the platform. Down the staircase she ran, a young woman whose face was a mixture of sheer panic and a sliver of hope. Her name was Clara, and her heart was pounding in her chest, a frantic drumbeat against her ribs. In one hand, she clutched the handle of a small, worn suitcase that held not just her belongings, but the weight of her decision. In the other, she held a letter, its edges slightly crumpled from being held so tightly. This was a letter she had written and rewritten a dozen times. A letter she had almost convinced herself not to send. A letter that contained words she had been too afraid to speak aloud for months. Her eyes, wide and filled with a desperate plea, were fixed on the closing doors of the train. Each inch they closed felt like a door shutting on her future, on the possibility of making things right. She had been wrestling with her pride for so long, and tonight she had finally chosen courage. But it seemed she might have been just a moment too late. The world seemed to slow down as she neared the platform. Every detail sharp and clear, the conductor's stoic face, the yellow line she was about to cross, the narrowing gap of the train door. The first time in his 30-year career, Arthur hesitated. His hand, which was about to give the final signal to the driver, paused in midair. He saw the young woman, not just as another late passenger, but as a story unfolding before his eyes. He saw the raw emotion on her face, the desperation in her sprint. It was more than just a desire to catch a train. It was a deep, profound need. He had seen thousands of faces over the years, faces of joy, sadness, excitement, and farewell. But this one was different. It held the weight of a life-changing moment. His mind, usually a well-oiled machine of schedules and rules, flickered with an unfamiliar impulse. The rulebook was clear, no exceptions. The train never waits. But in that split second, another, older rule surfaced in his heart, the rule of human kindness. He looked at the closing doors, then back at the running woman. Quietly, almost imperceptibly, he placed his hand on the edge of the door, physically stopping its progress. He held it there, his arm a barrier against the unyielding mechanics of the schedule. In his mind, he silently counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extra seconds, tiny eternity against the backdrop of his rigid profession. She reached the train, her lungs burning, and stumbled through the gap Arthur had held open for her. For a moment, she just stood there, leaning against the side of the carriage, trying to catch her breath. The world outside the window began to slide past as the train finally started to move. She looked at Arthur, her eyes glistening with unshed tears of relief and gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rumbling of the wheels on the track. "Thank you so much, I thought my chance was finished." Arthur simply nodded, a small, knowing smile touching the corners of his lips. He didn't need any more explanation. He had seen the letter in her hand and the hope in her eyes, and he understood. He had just broken the biggest rule of his job, but as he watched her find a seat, felt a sense of rightness he hadn't experienced in a long time. He had not just held a door, he had held open a possibility. He had given her 5 seconds, and in those 5 seconds, he might have given her a lifetime. As the train picked up speed, leaving the familiar lights of the town behind and journeying into the deep blue of the night, Clara finally allowed herself to relax. She settled into a seat by the window, the rhythmic clatter of the train, a soothing lullaby. She looked down at the letter in her hand, her fingers tracing the name on the envelope. A soft, gentle smile bloomed on her face. This journey wasn't just about traveling from one place to another. It was a journey back to someone she had hurt, someone she missed more than words could say. The letter contained the 2 most difficult sentences she had ever written. "I'm sorry, and I still care." For months, pride and fear had built a wall between them, a wall that felt impossible to climb. But tonight, with a burst of courage and the unexpected kindness of a stranger, she had found her way over it. The train was carrying her toward a conversation she needed to have, toward healing a wound she had caused. It was a journey toward a second chance, a chance to mend what was broken, and perhaps, just perhaps, to begin again. The smile on her face was not one of complete certainty, but of quiet, determined hope. The train, old, reliable, disappeared into the evening, its lights a fading star against the dark landscape. Back at the station, Arthur watched it go, a feeling of quiet contentment settling over him. The platform was empty now, the air still and peaceful. For once, the station didn't feel like a place of missed opportunities, but one of new beginnings. The loud ticking of the grand clock seemed a little softer tonight, a little less demanding. It was a simple, fleeting moment, a conductor holding a door for just a few extra seconds. But in that small act of grace, a profound truth was revealed. Second chances are often like that. They aren't grand, dramatic events. They're small, quiet moments, a handful of seconds gifted by kindness, a single step taken toward forgiveness. They are fragile and easily missed, but if you're lucky enough to catch one, you might find it carries a whole new life inside. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, remember to like, share, and subscribe to learn English with stories for more content that inspires. We'll see you in the next one.